you check the children. Show a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Rob the Wolfman.
And we are here to round out our Evil Dead coverage with our rankings of the franchise. We're going to be doing both a standard ranking and a tier list ranking. This here is our standard ranking where we're going to be just putting all of the films and the TV series in order against one another just to see what we prefer. And you guys are welcome to give all of your thoughts on your rankings in the comments down below. So see if you agree with us or if you're completely different. But we are going to be, just so you know, ranking the TV series all as one. So Ash vs. Evil Dead seasons 1 through 3 will be one spot on this ranking. So there'll be 7 spots total. So without further ado, Robert, why don't you go ahead and start with your number 7.
Okie dokie. All right, so my number 7 is, and it's going to piss a lot of people off, or be a, what are you talking about? Evil Dead Rise.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Yeah, honestly, it was the weakest of them. It really was. There was some nice things to appreciate about it, but at this point, by the time you guys see this, it's already been out, so I'm going to obviously still avoid some spoilers and everything, but certain callbacks just felt a little cheap. They just threw it in there, just threw it in there. I wasn't blown away by the makeup necessarily, so that's where kind of it falls the flattest for me.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. So then my number 7 is going to be Within the Woods. So that is the thing that started it all from 1978, the original Evil Dead short film that Sam Raimi made that was kind of proof of concept for The Evil Dead. And one of the coolest things about it is that Ash becomes a Deadite very early on, and he's basically the antagonist for the whole short. And so that in and of itself is something I really appreciate. But the presentation is obviously really rough because we had to seek out a kind of a bootleg copy. So a lot of it was cutting in and out, and it was really fuzzy and hard to watch sometimes. But, you know, it as a proof of concept, it works well. It's just not my favorite thing to watch in the franchise. In fact, it's my least favorite thing to watch in the franchise as of right now. So, yeah, Within the Woods is my number 7. So
Fair enough.
Your 6?
My number 6 is Within the Woods.
Okay, all right.
Well, again, going off of what Sus was saying, like, it wasn't perfect. It was their concept film to get investors into it and get them money to make Evil Dead. But what was so nice about this, and obviously it being 1978, they didn't make copies of this, so I've never been able to see a legitimate
Right.
like DVD copy of this. It's always been online. It's always been a terrible quality. But at the same time, I feel like that helps the tone just put a little bit out there, because the sound design and the music that was utilized for this concept movie was genuinely creepy.
Yeah.
And like, again, that's, you can see certain camera movements and things that he did with Within the Woods that he implemented and made better in the future Evil Dead installments.
You can see the building blocks.
Exactly.
But that's just what they are, is
Exactly.
building blocks.
They're building blocks, but they were still hefty blocks.
Indeed.
All right, so
My number 6 is Evil Dead Rise. Yeah, this one, I had really high hopes for Evil Dead Rise. Our review of the movie just went up a day or two ago, so if you haven't seen that yet, check it out. But ultimately, I was a bit disappointed. I had high hopes, because I love, as you'll see, Evil Dead 2013 ranks pretty high for me. So this one, I was hoping would be on that level, especially because it's only the second time in the entire franchise where it's telling a story that isn't the same Evil Dead story at the cabin. So I was really hoping they were going to go interesting with it, like use the tropes established in Evil Dead and bring something new to it, to the new location. But no, unfortunately, they spent so much time cramming all of the aspects of the Evil Dead franchise that we already know and love into this story that it ended up not feeling like it was its own thing. And it felt, unfortunately, just sort of not thrown together, but just, it wasn't as interesting as I was hoping it would be, because it wasn't as original as I think it very much could have been with the setup.
It was like a goulash. You know, there's a little bit of everything in there, but does it always go together? No.
So what's your number 5?
My number 5 is going to be Evil Dead 2013.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. I know how much you like this, especially
right.
on your rewatch and
That's all
everything. Again, like I've said in the review that we did, there were a lot of things to appreciate about this. Like the effects, they did fantastic with the sound design and the music that was utilized. My biggest issue is the basic of like just rewriting lore and recreating unnecessary creatures or entities that don't really play well, meaning also the creature or the entity at the very end. It's showing up as some naked demon chick. It's like, that's not scary. It's not scary. The rest of the movie was put together fantastically, don't get me wrong. It's just story issues, I think, were my biggest problem.
Okay. All right. Well, then my number 5 is going to probably piss people off for a different reason, is the 1981 The Evil Dead. So this one is just one that I'm not going to rewatch as much as I rewatch everything else. I think Evil Dead 2013 was, you know, in my opinion, the more fun to rewatch version of this story, even though it's ashless. I still enjoyed the newer one more because this one is done again and done better in Evil Dead 2. And you'll see how much better, you know, as our ranking goes on, because, you know, this was again, I feel like this was Sam still working out the kinks a little bit. Oh, there's flies around, that's appropriate. But yeah, I think that he did a wonderful job with it. It's a fantastic movie. It's just not, I prefer watching the other stuff on the list more than this one. So that's how rankings go.
That's fair. That is fair.
So you're number 4.
My number 4 is going to be Army of Darkness.
Okay.
Okay, so I always had a lot of fun with the Army of Darkness movie, but it got to the point where it was more comical than it was the mix of horror comedy that was melded so well in Evil Dead 2, and honestly even the series.
Okay.
Like I will, but it still has a place in my heart. Don't get me wrong. Like the original trilogy, I'm always going to love it. I would never not ever like it. It's just there could have been some things that they shouldn't have made it so like slapstick comedy. Keep those horror elements in there, but also utilizing and bringing in your medieval characters. Was it Henry the Red and things like that? But also like the Pit Witch. Those were nice touches. Should have given a little bit more.
Yeah, you know what? My number 4 is also gonna be Army of Darkness, because a lot of the same reasons. It honestly feels the least like an Evil Dead movie of all of them. I mean, it's very much Evil Dead in the slapsticky side of things, but it really eschews the horror so much that it doesn't feel like it. In those terms, it feels like the more of the outlier of everything. You know, all the other stuff leans more into the horror than this one does. And while I do have, you know, nostalgic love for the film, because producer Dave and I would watch it all the time when we were growing up, it was fun. That's the thing. It was fun. It wasn't the scary stuff though, and that's what I was reared on, was the scary stuff. And so yeah, Army of Darkness, I just don't appreciate quite as much as the other 3 on this list. So
also too, the studio really screwed with them and everything like that, and marketing didn't help any of the movie either. And yeah, it was a bummer.
So your number 3?
All right, my number 3 is going to be the original Evil Dead in 1981.
Okay.
So why I put this as high up as I did is this was technically it was the first horror movie I bought as a kid with my own money.
Oh wow.
This movie has a major special place in my heart.
Okay.
It scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. And and again, it's that sound design, like I talked with, was utilized in the movie, in his concept movie Within the Woods. But they prepared it better, and it scared the crap out of me as a 9-year-old kid and shit like that. But it has its problems, obviously.
Okay.
You know, it's a time of its budget kind of thing. but how Sam and the whole crew works together to pull everything off so well, it still stays timeless.
Okay.
Personally.
Yeah, fair enough. So my number 3 is going to be Ash vs. Evil Dead, the series.
Okay.
I put this here because I do still like 2 iterations more than it, but upon rewatching of all 3 seasons, I really like this show, and it feels the most kindred to Evil Dead 2 of anything. And so they carried that through, 10 episodes, 10 half-hour episodes for 3 seasons, which means that's 5 hours of Evil Dead per season. So 15 hours, which is, God, what? How many movies? If they're about an hour
Not
and a half
enough.
each.
Not
It's
enough.
like 10 additional movies, basically.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic, and it's such an... and granted, it's a sequel to Army of Darkness as well, but, again, this is just so much more in line with Evil Dead 2 and the scary stuff mixed with the over-the-top gore stuff, and I just really, really dug it.
I wholeheartily agree.
So number 2 for you.
My number 2 is Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Okay.
They're gonna be like, did you guys just look at lists beforehand with each other? It's like, no, we didn't.
Nope.
So Ash vs. Evil Dead, like kind of echoing off what Cecil was just saying, was a perfect continuation of what they made perfect in Evil Dead 2, basically, for lack of a better term. But they carried it and they expanded on it and gave us more of the Ash character that we liked, in the demeanor and the goofiness with the kills, the over-the-top gore, the fantastic prosthetics. I have and always will have a blast with this TV series, and I cannot wait for the animated series for whenever they get going with that. So if you guys haven't heard anything about that, go check that out. Bruce has been talking about that a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Yep. Fair enough. So my number 2 is going to be Evil Dead 2013. So this one is high up on my list because it is, I think, the best version, the best horror version of that cabin in the woods kind of story that Evil Dead made so impressively. A couple of different times, but I think that it is so modern and so over the top with its gore, but still so scary with it, that I think it's a different sort of high point. I think Evil Dead 2 is one high point. I think Evil Dead 2013 is a different kind of high point within the series, but definitely still a high point. The characters might not be the most deep, but they're all still entertaining to watch go through everything, and they all did a great job going deadite along the way. And even though it became a little knockoff-y towards the end when it's like, our protagonist has to have one hand gotten off, it still was entertaining, I think, enough through the whole way that I was able to forgive it. And, the blood-soaked ending was amazing. And so while the entity might have been underwhelming, I still enjoyed the whole film overall, and I'm always happy to revisit it because it's just so well done for a modern horror movie.
Fair enough. No, I'll give it that. It has a lot to appreciate, like I had said before, especially in the effects department. That's where that movie shined the hell out of it.
So if you're paying attention, that means that both of us have the very same number 1.
That's pretty much there, yeah.
Yep. So that means that it's what, Robert?
Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead 2, exactly.
The pinnacle of perfection for this franchise.
Absolutely. It's fantastic. It's scary. It's hilariously funny at times. It's entertaining. It's shocking. It's awe-inspiring when you see, the giant demon in the doorway at the end. It's so engaging, especially all the way up to the end when he's thrown through a portal to the Middle Ages and stuff. It's so entertaining the whole way through.
Yeah, Evil Dead 2, while like I mentioned earlier, the first Evil Dead will always have a place in my heart, but Evil Dead 2 is one of those, like, when I had first seen it, I had laughed my ass off, but at the same time, there was some good jump scares and stuff in there. There was some times that, like, it made me squirmy, especially being 10, 11 when I had originally seen this. especially with like the eyeball getting shot into Bobby Joe. Bobby Joe. God, that scene was. Honestly, I think that was the most annoying scene in that whole movie.
Okay.
Just him screaming Bobby Joe. She's like, shut the fuck up, man. But no, this movie will never get old. There will never be a time that I will say, nah, I don't feel like watching it. I will always give myself a reason. Damn, flies are back. I got rid of these dead bodies.
I know. We gotta do it.
Honestly, I think that we'll probably leave it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Evil Dead 2 was
If you guys know the
and will
franchise,
always
you
be
know why
perfect.
Evil Dead 2 is amazing.
Exactly. Prosthetics, the effects were dialed in from what they had originally designed from the original Evil Dead. We got expanded lore. That was just perfect.
It was
all
amazing.
around. It's a perfect requel.
Yep, I mean, fun claymation stuff at times too.
Yep.
I mean, so it's so worth your time and so worth. It's worth every bit of every rewatch you ever do of it. Honestly.
Absolutely. That and Highlander.
Fair enough. All right, so that's gonna do it, you guys. Thank you very much for watching our ranking. Thank you for watching all of our Evil Dead content. If you have been, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
Rob the Wolfman.
And remember, stay scared.